know one of the mistakes that I'm constantly making in Czech is my přízvuk. My přízvuk. How do I know? Because all of my teachers and a few of my viewers tell me so. But they also tell me that this is a really typical mistake for Americans who are learning Czech. Because Americans' word stress is all over the place. So at least I'm in good company. And because of my years of experience teaching English to Czechs, I often correct the exact same mistake with each of my students. And other English teachers agree with me. So in this video, I've teamed up with some other English teachers who have years of experience teaching Czechs, and we've made a list of the top 10 mistakes that Czechs make when trying to speak English. So you never have to make those mistakes again. How many of these mistakes do you make? Let's find out. But first, I want to thank my sponsor, italki. If you haven't heard of italki, it's one of my favorite ways to learn a language with a native speaker. italki is an online platform where you can meet professional teachers who teach over 130 languages, including Czech and English. In fact, when I wanted to find some English teachers who had experience teaching Czech students, I just went onto italki and booked a lesson with them. I'll introduce you to them in a minute. And when you book a lesson with an italki teacher, they create individualized lessons around your personal needs. You tell them what you want to focus on, which I love. Each teacher sets their own price, so you can find one that's right for you. And you can book lessons with as many teachers as you want. Sometimes it's great to have teachers from England and the United States, men and women, so you get a different variation of accents. And this month, italki is hosting a language challenge, and I am signing up. Here's what it's all about. I set a goal of how many language lessons I want to accomplish by the end of the challenge period. And if I complete that goal, then I can earn italki rewards and I can win up to $500. And you can join me. Here's how we do it. Go to the description in the link below and sign up. Registering is totally free. Set your goal. How many lessons do you think you can accomplish in 60 days? I'm going to set a goal of 16 lessons. I think I can manage that. Now choose a teacher and book. There are so many great ones to choose from. I think I'll start with this one. If you want to improve your English or your Czech or any of the 130 languages that you can learn on italki, go to the link below and sign up. And if you need a little kick in the pants like I do, sign up for the challenge. Okay, on to the top 10 mistakes that Czech speakers make when learning English. And I'm going to get a little help from Stephanie, Gwen, and Kelsey. 3 italki teachers who have years of experience teaching English to Czech and Slovak learners. Mistake number 10. Oh, thanks God. Czechs often exclaim, "Thanks God," when they are relieved about something. It's true that when we thank another person, we say thanks with an S. Thanks, Hansa. But we are not thanking God directly. We are telling the people around us, I thank God for whatever we're thankful for. And we drop the subject and just say, thank God. Mistake number 9. Where do you live? I am living in Brno. Czechs often use the present continuous, I am doing, when they should be using the present simple, I do.
So I speak English versus I'm speaking English. For example, I hear something like, oh, I'm going to my cottage every week, right? Where we would probably say, I go to my cottage every week.
I am living in Prague. This is the present continuous tense. It has a slightly different meaning than I live in Prague. Am living means you are living there temporarily, perhaps for a few months or a year, while you work or go to school. Live is present simple. It means you live there permanently and have no plans to move. Ava is working at Starbucks over the summer. This is temporary work for her while she's not in school. My wife works at Microsoft. She has worked there since 2016, and she doesn't have any plans to quit. This is her permanent job. We also use present simple to speak about habits and routines. I drink black coffee. Anytime I drink coffee, I take it black, without milk. It's my habit. I am drinking coffee means that action is happening right now, at this moment. She exercises every weekend. That is her routine. She is exercising right now, and she'll be finished at 10:30. Mistake number 8. I live in the Prague. Articles like the can be confusing for Czech speakers, especially with the names of countries or cities.
Countries, proper nouns, things like this. I'm going to the Germany tomorrow.
In Europe, we use the with the United Kingdom and the Netherlands. Many formal country names use the, like the Slovak Republic and the Czech Republic. That is because republic is a noun and it means an article, like the. But when you refer to those countries with their short names, you use Slovakia and Czechia without the.
The doesn't go with city names unless it's The Hague or a couple of other examples, of course. Then you get the Prague, right?
The only city I can think of in Europe to use the is The Hague. But Prague never uses the. So, I live in Prague, I live in Czechia, or I live in the Czech Republic. Mistake number 7. Phrasal verbs. They're difficult, we know. A phrasal verb is when you put a verb and a preposition together to make a verb with totally different meaning.
Yes, phrasal verbs are always a struggle. One of the things that is most difficult about phrasal verbs is the preposition part of it, because prepositions in Czech versus English are very difficult to begin with.
Here's an example of a phrasal verb that almost all Czechs get wrong. I take care about my children. Take care about is incorrect. You can say take care of or care about. But they have different meanings. To take care of is an action, and care about is an emotion. So what's the best way to remember phrasal verbs?
Think of something that you personally relate to with this phrasal verb and experience or something like that. That generally has an effect of keeping it in your memory a little bit better. So trying to connect the phrasal verb to an experience or an event, or even just like some funny weird sentence generally helps.
Here's a tip to remember. We talk about what we care about. Mary cares about her granny. She loves her. But the nurse takes care of Granny by giving her the proper medication. She does this action so Granny can stay healthy. Peter cares about his dog. He loves him and tells everyone that his dog is the best. Peter also takes care of his dog by doing certain actions, like feeding him and taking him for walks. Mom cares about her children. She loves them both. That is her emotion. Mom also takes care of her children by cleaning up after them, feeding them, and helping them with homework. Mistake number 6. I don't make no mistakes.
So they use double negative in Czech and we don't in English. So for example, I don't know nothing, or I didn't see nobody.
Sentences like I don't know nothing aren't only wrong, but they make the speaker sound uneducated. Let's start with the positive sentence. I know something. To make it negative, we add don't. I don't know. and we change something to anything. We use any with negative sentences. I don't see anything. I don't hear anything. And you can add any to other words to use in negative sentences. Nobody becomes anybody, and nowhere becomes anywhere. Sorry, I didn't see your cat anywhere. Mistake number 5, I met some guy last night. The grammar was the mistake, not the guy. Well, we'll see. We often hear Czechs overuse the word some. Some means an unspecified amount or number. If you only met one guy, you should use a. I met a guy. You can say, I ate some cookies. It means you ate a few, but you aren't saying exactly how many. Or, I ate a cookie, if you only ate one. He gave me some flowers. I didn't count them, but there were many. Or, he gave me a flower. Only one.
I try to explain, if you say, oh, I met some guy, it's almost this dismissive thing, right? Like a random guy. So when you say, yeah, I'm going to buy some car, it sounds almost like you don't care which car.
When you use some to speak about people, it has a slightly different meaning. I want to meet some girl means you don't care which girl. Any girl is fine with you. But if you say, I want to meet a girl, you are speaking about one special girl. You do care about which one. You want a beautiful one, a clever one, a nice one. So in general, use a for one and some for many. Before we move on to mistake number 4, I want to introduce you to one of our experts, Gwyneth, who I found on italki.
I am a bit weird in that I do like grammar and explaining grammar.
Me too.
Yeah. So it's, that's fine if they want to go over grammar. I'm always happy to do that because I feel quite, I've been teaching English now for 10 years, so I feel confident in most of the grammar. My favorite things to talk about are psychology, society, politics, but usually from a more human angle, travel, and I like to talk about relationships and connections once I get close to the students and we can talk about these things. The state of the world, the environment, all of these kind of things. A lot of Czech students are too afraid of making mistakes, and you've got to remember right there, you won't improve in a language unless you take the risk to just try saying something anyway, even if it's wrong. And I think the education system here has scared a lot of people away from making mistakes, but really don't worry, it's going to sound way better than when I speak Czech.
Mistake number 4. I have been making YouTube videos from October last year. No, but I have. Many Czechs confuse from and since when speaking about time because they both translate as od in Czech, but they're not the same.
When I think about specifically since, a lot of the time they would use from.
So let's look at the difference. From is used when you're talking about the start time of an activity that also has a finish time. We express that finish time with to or until. I'll be at the office from 8 a.m. until noon tomorrow. We use from for the start time and until for the end time. If the end time is not important, we can omit it. I'll be at the office from 8 a.m. tomorrow. The post office is open from 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. daily. If we want to focus on the opening time, we can omit the closing time and simply say, the post office is open from 7:30 a.m. daily. Since is used to speak about an activity that started in the past and is still true now. That's important. The activity must be connected to the present moment. I've been working since 7 a.m. I started at 7 a.m. and I'm still working right now. I've lived in Prague since 2012. I moved in 2012 and I still live in Prague now. I've been waiting since you called. I started waiting when you called and I'm still waiting now. Mistake number 3, oh, those pesky prepositions.
So, for example, they will say when I was on high school, right? And this is because in Czech they use na, like on. So a lot of these in or at or on prepositions. And I think especially when you talk about maybe places.
The preposition na in Czech has many different translations in English.
It's a tricky one. I would probably just advise that you learn things as a block, so you learn in high school rather than you're learning high school and you're learning in and on and then you're trying to put them together. It's learning them together as a pair of words, because it's the same for me learning Czech. I don't memorize the rules of declension as much as I remember pairs of things that go together.
Instead of learning the direct translation for na, memorize sentences or phrases using the different translated prepositions. He is lying in the sun.
Will you go on beer? Which was adorable, but I know that's not what my student wants to hear from me as a teacher. So will you go on beer?
Let's go for a beer. They're at a party. He's on the way. Before we move on to mistake number 2, and it's a big one, I want to introduce you to Kelsey. She lives in Chicago, but she used to live in Prague, and so she has a lot of experience teaching English to Czechs.
Yeah, I love teaching there. Working for, as anywhere you go, some schools are better organized than others, but for the most part, I love teaching there. My students were great. I'm a musician, so I talk about music a lot. Any and all things music are great. It's something that comes up a lot in my lessons, and I really enjoy talking about. So actually, one of the things that I talk about a lot in my trial lessons with students is that the nice thing about italki is it is very much about the student. So I am here to assist the student in their needs in any way that I possibly can. So that means if something in my lesson isn't working for you, let me know and we'll change it. If there's something in particular that you're struggling with and you want to work on, let me know and we'll work on it. There's not a set curriculum, so we're really open to work in the best way that works for the student. And most of my students like that. They like the flexibility of being able to choose how they're learning, which is really great.
Mistake number 2, false friends. Those are the pesky little words that look the same in English and Czech, but they actually have totally different meanings. Czech and English have some often used false friends.
Preservative in English and preservative in Czech, totally different things. If you're in the United States and other English-speaking countries and you go to the supermarket and you see a can of beans, let's say, and on the can of beans it says no preservatives. That's a good thing. It means there's no extra chemicals in the food. It lasts longer, all this good stuff. Preservative in Czech is a condom.
Yeah, that's a mistake you definitely don't want to make. Aktuální does not mean actually. It means up to date. Our website has up-to-date information. Another word you could use is current. Actually, in English, means skutečně. The actor played a lifeguard on TV, but actually, he can't swim. Kontrolovat does not mean control. It means to check. The flight attendant checks that everyone is seated before the plane can take off. Control means ovládat. He can't control his emotions. I control the robot with this device. The device is actually called a remote control. Chef does not mean chef. It means boss. My boss is always in a bad mood. Chef in English means chef kucharz. The chef's specialty is pork, potatoes, and cabbage. Aha, he must be Czech. Before I get to the last tip, I want to introduce Stephanie. She teaches at her own school here in Prague, and she also teaches to students all over the world on italki.
Part of the benefit of having this kind of online class with a teacher on italki is that they can really do it at any time from anywhere. Like, I have students that, wake up at 5 a.m. because their kids are still asleep, and it's like the 1 hour they have for themselves in the day, and I'm available because I'm in a completely different time zone, and it just works. The majority of my students are somewhere between like B1, B2, and I offer different classes on italki as well, so people can find me because I offer, interview preparation classes because of my corporate experience. It changes things up a bit.
And now for the number one mistake that all Czechs make. And it is such a common mistake that you have actually changed the way that we English speakers say this. This is going to blow your mind. We don't use the with the word nature. Nope. We do say we're going into the hills or to the countryside. We're hiking in the mountains. We're going into the forest, or swimming in the river, the sea, or the ocean. We can even go for a walk in the jungle. But nature in English is not a place that we go to. It's a concept. It's an idea. Nature is beautiful. We should preserve nature. I love being surrounded by nature.
This is actually something I have to admit. I've heard the nature, which is technically incorrect. I've heard it so many times now, it doesn't sound incorrect to me anymore.
Oh, of course, the nature is the classic one. I'm going to the nature. The thing is, I've lived here so long that just sounds okay to me now, and I don't know, I don't really know what to correct it to.
I feel like things like the nature, I think are mistakes that are very common, and they're things that, although they're wrong, they're kind of unique to Czech speakers, and so I think they sometimes add character to conversations and things like that.
I think we should make it mainstream. I mean, why not?
If you want to use the nature, go ahead. We understand what you mean. You've even got us English teachers using it too. So I hope that these 10 tips helped refine the way that you speak English. And if you want to join me in signing up for the italki challenge this month, be sure to click the link below. By clicking the link, you help to support me and this channel, which I really appreciate, so I can keep bringing you free content. And if you want to book a lesson with Gwyneth or Kelsey or Stephanie, you can find them on italki too. Uvidíme se příští týden. Ahoj!